you ever stop to think what the disciples on the road to Emmaus must have been thinking as they left Jerusalem on that first Easter Sunday?
I reckon that their heads must have been all over the place because they really just sort of witnessed a whole lot of different things happening. And certainly, I don't think as maybe they had anticipated.
Yeah, well, it did seem that they were expecting to have a military leader almost who was going
Yeah.
to rid them of the occupying forces.
What I did really get confused about was when the authorities turned against him, the people turned against him, and then he was subjected to a lot of injustices at that trial. Did you follow
Aye,
that?
aye. Two people, two disciples walking to Emmaus, and at some point during that journey, a stranger to them comes up alongside and asks them why they're feeling so downcast.
Yeah.
We now know because of the later revelation in the passage that this was Jesus. But why do you think they were kept from identifying him at that point?
That's interesting. I get where one minute they're maybe following Jesus, they're seeing him in the flesh, they're seeing the kind of things he's doing. Next minute, this guy has been hung on a cross and killed. And, you know, then they do know he's buried. And I think it's like, they're thinking, was it all worthwhile? Was it real?
So really, they were, in a way, they were walking away from what they just
They
experienced.
were indeed.
They were just going to go home, and
Yeah.
maybe Jesus felt it necessary to just get alongside them and encourage their faith,
Yeah.
if not to actually identify him at that point. But at some point, he was going to reveal himself to them. And
Okay. Because now they were going to be faced with living their life without his presence. And it was going to be something of real faith now where they were going to have to trust not seeing him, not being with him.
so once Jesus asked these two disciples why they were downcast, they explained to him what had all unfolded during
Yeah.
the events in Jerusalem, and then he opens up the scriptures to them and explains and justifies the existence of the Messiah right from Moses through the prophet line.
And I suppose just after hearing that their faith really became alive again because they had been shared so much by Jesus. In fact, their lives were touched by that particular
Yeah,
conversation
yeah,
that they
yeah.
invited them to tea. And I suppose there's a real challenge to you and I and to everybody else just to invite Jesus into your lives, into your situations, and talk to him, and just to learn all that he has to tell you about how we should live our lives and our relationships with God. So please just invite Jesus in.